What have I got in here? I like my spices. I got some ground nutmeg, some cinnamon, some other things. I swear, every single video there's going to be like a different item in there. You're going to slowly see all the things that I keep in my room until you see like a giant spiked, sexual tool, and you're like, oh my god. Anyway, that is nowhere to be found. I'm chatting shit. What's up, guys? Shuman here. Welcome back to another video. And I'm going to try as a challenge to see if I don't bang this mic, because I've noticed in every single one of my videos, which is 5, which I haven't yet uploaded, I always bang the mic. So I'm going to try and not do that. Yes, I have indeed. It's weird. I don't stop posting. I just hoard videos. And I'm so perfectionist that I just don't post them. It's really bad. And I thought that I was the only one, but I listened to a podcast of someone talking about how when she got into YouTube, she had a year's worth of content and she'd post like a video every single week. She had saved up a whole year's worth of content. She was just too like, oh my god, to post it. And a lot of that, I believe, is because of the negative associations that she had around posting and things, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about, because I have this weird thing with intuition. One of the blessings of social isolation, I find, is that you have the opportunity to develop your intuition, and your inner world becomes more and more developed. Now, you can let that go to crap to the point where you are literally just the world's best jailer and torturer, as you slowly torture yourself into an existence where you're just flat on the ground and someone has to scoop you off the curb to be able to, go eat and feed yourself. Or you can basically do what Viktor Frankl did when he was in the camp and who wrote Man's Search for Meaning and stuff. Now, that wasn't true social isolation, but you understand what I mean. And what I'm getting with this is that my intuition is really sharp, and I can literally just ask myself a question, and I'll find the answer to it. Even if it's really, really difficult questions that I've been struggling with for a long, long period of time, which, for example, is like right goddamn now, because I've been struggling a lot recently with just finding the motivation to really do anything productive. To just finding the motivation to just tidy my room, or to make a video, or to do all sorts of other things for my own personal benefit. And it's really been bad for the last 2 weeks, to the point where I've just come home, gone to work, come home, play video games, day off, play video games, just try and then basically torture myself throughout the whole day and say, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And I basically laid down and I asked myself, what is the answer to this question? Why is it that I'm still bloody struggling with this? And the answer came to me, and I literally just got up with no resistance and just made this video. It's so weird how you basically know the answers to all your problems. And the answer, but let me finish with that. You know the answer to most of your problems. The question is, are you actually willing and comfortable to actually confront them? That's the only difference, is that you know what you need to do. I've always known what I needed to do to be able to improve myself, to be able to do this. Not just like, oh, take this supplement. I mean the hard emotional choices and things that you've been putting off that you know that you need to do right now to be able to transform your life. Leave the place, leave that guy, leave your parents, leave it, whatever the hell your reason or my reason may be. You know what you need to do. Most of the time it's just like, oh, just courage. But anyway, main topic. I basically realized that a lot of the associations that I have with anything really are negative. And basically, when I associate tidying in my room with negative things, I associate taking care of myself with negative things. Like, for example, you may think that this beard is just my style. I mean, this is. But all this is just because I can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered. And you may think that's positive, and you may think that's negative, whatever. But what I realize is that I'm like fucking this. You can't see it if you're white, but this is actually quite bad. I tell you, whenever I meet someone, a black person, most of the time, and they see me without my hat on, they're like, "Dude, you need to get your hair done." But when I ask white people, I don't know if they're too nice, if they don't know the difference between like good cornrows and bad. But who knows? But basically, I realized that like I'm still associating all of the things that are towards self-care and towards my own future with home. I'm still associating things like, for example, me tidying my room with home. And that's to say, when you've grown up in an environment around narcissistic people, I've said this so many times, a lot of their different behaviors So, for example, they constantly intrude in your barriers and they don't allow you to develop any sort of sense of identity, and you sort of feel as if you're objectified. What happens is you start to associate the things that they're trying to get you to do negatively. And this can be anything. This can be tidying your room. This can be having a shower once in a while. This can be anything. I like to think of it as this. Imagine if you had a horrible maths teacher, and the worst like as well. So all your maths teachers, since you were a wee lad, were all horrible. They're all devils. They were all whipping you. They were discriminating against you. They were shaming you in front of the class. You're not going to like maths very much. And you may be like the next maths whiz. You know, the next, I was about to say Einstein, but is science math? Yeah, it is. But you know what I mean? You could be that person, but because you have all those negative associations around it, it's very, very difficult to move on. And you may be thinking to yourself, why the hell can't I just do this simple task? Why the hell can't I just do X, Y, and Z? And why is it so difficult for me? And it all boils down to the associations that you actually have around it. Now, for me, for example, an example of an intrusive thing, when I started YouTube, for example, I was really hooked on it. I loved it. I kept on posting videos time and time again. But as it actually started to get larger, and as it picked up, I started to get questions. I started to get asked, when's it going to be successful? How much money are you making? And this became a daily occurrence. And to the point where I started to associate YouTube with work, with business, with success, and with wanting to impress them. I wanted to impress them. This is like four or so years ago now. Oh, I've been a YouTuber for a while. Not got much to show for it, but you know what I mean? And so it became very difficult for me to basically post videos because I had that negative association of this is work, this must be perfect, which is why I have 5 videos which I haven't put up. Although today I actually have a good excuse because I lost my card and so I cancelled it. What I didn't realize is that I cancelled it like 4 days before I scheduled my bills to come out. And because of all this coronavirus stuff, which I'm not going to start. I don't have another 30 minutes to talk about that. Because of all that stuff, it's like I have no internet and I have no phone. Like that. Like I'm just in the dark, which is actually kind of nice. Doesn't stop me from playing video games though. But anyway, so I basically developed all of these negative associations around it, and what I realized is that when you look at something or someone and you wonder why is it that they can do that thing that I'm so bad at, and it may be something very, very simple. Why is it that they can have the discipline and have the motivation to go and exercise once a week? Or why is it that they can have the discipline and the motivation to sit down and learn a language? Why is it that they can do things that I've attempted to do but can't, not because of my skill, but because of X, Y, Z, something or whatever? 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be something that you physically or mentally cannot do. Why is it that I know that I can do this and I see you doing it, but I can't and you can? I believe it all boils down to the associations with the actual task itself. Now, for example, take a child. You hate math. Going back to that example. But this kid, he loves math. He can do quick math all day. And you will sit there and do it. I remember actually liking it. I used to love when I was in primary school. They just give me a whole page of sums and I just like, yeah. Can't fucking do that now, mate. You give me a whole page of sums and it's, well, technically I do sums all day. Second job in retail, but you know what I mean. But like, if you were to put that in front of me, I'd be like, yeah, can't be bothered. Or take, for example, what I'm trying to do. You can find like 16-year-olds or whatever, people going to YouTube. I look at people who are starting up their YouTube channels and they're making like a video a day. And I would think to myself, how can I get that motivation? How can I do this? But going back to what I said in a previous video, most of you, which probably you haven't seen because I've got so many uploaded. Anyway, friggin' looking at all these different YouTubers and sort of thinking to myself, how the hell could you do that? How the hell can you make a video every single day? So I used to say to myself, like, oh, if only I could do that, if only I could do this. But actually, it's just that they have a fresh association with it. They have no attachment to it mentally. Assumedly. I mean, most of them, many of them probably do. But it's more like a kid's example. Like, a kid has no negative attachment to whatever it is the task that you're struggling to do is. So if you give a kid the equivalent of what you're doing, but dumbed down so a kid could do it, the kid will probably do it if they think it's fun. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they just won't. Maybe they just don't want to. But as adults, we accumulate all these associations with actions, with ourselves, with all this other stuff, and we carry that with us, and we basically attempt with these previous burdens to, in the future, hopefully make something different. You know what I mean? So it's like we're carrying all this negative baggage with us to this cliff, and we want to jump. But we can't because we're weighed down with all these negative associations. So, take for example, if you had anorexia for most of your life and you hated yourself and you thought that you were really, really fat but you weren't, and then all of a sudden you want to put on weight. You think you've gotten over it, but you want to put on weight, so you go to the gym or whatever and you try and work out and you eat more. Now that person with anorexia is going to have a 10 times harder time than someone who hasn't had anorexia of putting on weight, because they're going to be constantly looking at themselves and thinking, oh my god, like, I'm this, I'm that, how could I be this, how could I be that? And it's the same thing for me in YouTube. It's like I have all these negative associations with it, which I feel none now. This is the weird part about intuition. I just laid in bed for the 500th time. I noticed the pattern of me beating myself up, and I thought, why am I doing this? I'm carrying on these old patterns. I left home, but I took it with me. And I have all these negative patterns that I'm replaying. This is how I beat myself up. I mean, think about it. When you're sitting there and you're being not so positive to yourself, and maybe you're beating yourself up or whatever, you've heard it before. You may be even using the same words, the same phrases, the same all this other stuff. You're just repeating it. It's just a cycle. You're just repeating it. And it's like we don't realize that in order to achieve a goal in the future, you have to basically let go of the past associations. And this is if they're negative. Now, you may have some positive associations with something, like, I'm going to start a business, I'm really successful, I can do it. Or maybe, but if you're really struggling with it, it's just about the actual associations with it. Why do I want to do X, Y, and Z? Why do I want to keep my room super clean? Is it because, it doesn't need to be? Or is it because maybe I've had people screaming in my ear every day about every little thing that's wrong with my room for most of my life? Is that it? Most likely. For me, anyway. And I'm probably trying to keep this below the 15-minute mark. A lot of the time when recently what started this off is that recently I was listening to a health podcast about a guy, lots of accidents, came close to dying, laying on a hospital bed, and he basically started to say to himself, I love myself, in his head. And he did it again and again and again and again and again. And his life transformed. And it became very, very difficult for him to really be negative. And of course, at first, it felt very disingenuous because all those past associations about how you hate yourself are there. But eventually, he said they all just went away because he just kept repeating it. And that's what we are. We are a series of repeated behaviors and associations thinking that they are real. It's called the ego. We are essentially fiction. We are fiction from the ground up. The only thing that's real is our body, really. And you could go into it, feel with it. Let's skip the soul and the spirit for now. Not saying they're not important, but I'm not going to try and keeping it simple. The ego is just a constant is a set of reinforced affirmations. That's what you are. You're a set of reinforced affirmations. And the reason why... So how can you sit there and tell yourself that there's a legitimate reason why you can't do something that you know is within your power, wherein someone else who has no association with it can? Who's probably weaker than you, who's dumber than you, who has less money, who has less opportunity. Why is it that they can do it? There's no legitimate reason. There's no struggle. It's just a sense. It's just the associations that one is telling oneself of it. And that's what I've realized, is that although it seems obvious that, like, it doesn't seem obvious. Kind of a weird one. Although it may seem obvious at the time when you're going through the motions of trying to force yourself to, it doesn't seem obvious that it's just a recording. And we think that there's some magical formula, and I wish I had more time on this, but like, we wish that it's some magical formula, but you can't think yourself out of it. You can't you can't you can't use the old reasoning that's built these negative affirmations to solve the affirmations. And for me, what that was like perfectionism. I think that if I'm going to be perfect in future, I have to do this, and this. But you can't, because one, there's no such thing as perfectionism. Whatever goal you're carrying on, the goal is false. It's false. And the same thing with these affirmations. You can't. It's impossible without discarding the negative associations and affirmations. It's not possible without discarding those to achieve anything positive. Because you'll just keep going around and around in circles. It's just the affirmations. Anyway, 50 minutes and 24 seconds. Hope you found this interesting. Let's see how long it sits on my hard drive gathering dust before I actually upload it. Who knows? 3 minutes out. Peace.